sports and entertainment video. I'm the man here that makes it all work. Wood. Hey, feel free to check me out on, come over and check me out at bitedownboxing.com, as well as look for some of my posts on roundbyroundboxing.com. Check out that new pound for pound panel over there. See who's on the panel. And, there are a bunch of different pound for pound lists all around the, various outlets. But check us out. Let me know what you think. This is some Bite Down Boxing. It's Friday, July 26th, I believe. Tough week for boxing. Hugo Santillan passed away, 23 years old. I think that was a super featherweight fight. Passed away over the weekend. I don't know much about that one. I haven't really looked into it yet. I did see some of the video on various on Twitter, and just very unfortunate. And then also, I think the bad news came in or started this week with the passing of Maxime Dadashev. I'm sorry. And what I'm talking about here is I just listened to tonight's XM Boxing show. They come on Friday, Monday and Friday night, 6 p.m. Eastern time, both nights. Tonight, actually, it's typically the hosts are Randy Gordon and former, heavyweight contender or world title challenger, Jerry Cooney. And tonight, Ak Reyes of Akin Barak sat in for Randy Gordon. So it was Ak and Jerry Cooney. And at about 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, they had Eddie Hearn call into the show. Now, quick housekeeping note. I'm getting ready to post this week's podcast. I normally do it somewhere else, but it looks like tonight I'm just going to be posting a video onto the YouTube channel. And I have an interview on there with Ak Reyes. Closing out the end of the show. Just talking some DAZN business. But that'll be up later on tonight. But so I'm on my way home from work, and I hear Eddie Hearn is coming on. So I'm like, let me check this out. Obviously, the tomorrow night is a big fight for DAZN and him as the promoter of it, with Maurice-Hooker taking on Jose Ramirez in Arlington, Texas. I'm sure you see the videos out there and everything and what's going on. So I'm like, let me hear this interview. They opened the show talking about the Rivas, the Dillian Whyte and Oscar Rivas situation with the PED, the failed test, and you could tell they hadn't really read into it too much. You could tell that Jerry Cooney, Cooney is an older guy. He's mainly on there for his in the ring experience, his knowledge, of all the players in boxing to this point from his career coming to a close. He's there to do what he's to do. But this is a very serious subject. We got a problem here. And this is part of what's wrong with boxing media, and there needs to be, because I see some comments and tweets out there about writers aren't asking the tough questions and what this person isn't doing and blah blah blah. Depending on, we got to look at the big boys. I'm a one-man dude. It's hard enough to talk about the fights every week. It's hard enough to try to chase down interviews and talk to the people that you can talk to. And this is why I'm making this video, because this is one of the better shows. They get everybody on there. And the way that this interview was conducted was disheartening. That's probably an understatement. Obviously, we can put two and two together, and we know that Ak is an employee for, has a deal with DAZN. And DAZN's point man for boxing in this country is Eddie Hearn. So I'm intrigued here, like, how tough is this questioning getting ready to be? And how much do they really dig in and get some answers here based on what we know from this Thomas Hauser article that's on Boxing Scene. So getting into that real quick, Eddie Hearn comes on and they did get into it, which I was kind of shocked. But Barack threw the disclaimer out there, or the caveat out there, hey, I know you can't respond to some things because it's an ongoing investigation or something. Kind of set the table, okay. But again, he's talking to a guy who was his boss in many respects. Eddie Hearn goes on and says that we had a hearing with the NADP, the National Anti-Doping Panel, which is an entity over in the UK, and he said they cleared Dillian Whyte for the fight. Okay. And he said, we played by the rules. We did everything accordingly, so on and so forth, and so on and so forth. And he was cleared to fight, so the fight moved forward. At no point in time on his 10 minutes on there, 8 minutes, whatever it was, at no point in time did either Ak or Jerry Cooney ask him about was there any notification made or attempts to notify the other camp, the opponent, who is the important person here in this whole situation. So he goes on and, says he's very concerned about this, Eddie Hearn. He's very concerned about this. And he mentioned that Dillian Whyte now is guilty until proven innocent. And he mentioned that Dillian Whyte, this is some of the notes that I jotted down. He said Dillian Whyte paid $40K to VADA. And that's one of the things here, based on the source of this, if you've heard Thomas Hauser, he said a person with knowledge of the situation, of the knowledge of the failed test, of the A sample, contacted him and told him that this situation was going on. So Eddie Hearn is kind of hinting at the fact that if he paid this money to VADA, how did UKAD, how did they catch how did they have the failed sample? And then, he's mentioning that Whyte voluntarily paid this $40K to VADA. He mentioned that it was 12 weeks that he was being tested, and he subjected himself to this. And so they're kind of being vague about it, that let this process play out, but he's being treated as if he's guilty until proven innocent. And so anyway, moving on. Hearn goes on. He kind of said something. I think he just said there was a hearing. He repeated that twice. There was a hearing, and we played accordingly. We played and adhered to all of the rules. But then when they did ask one follow-up question, and forgive me, I forget what that was, but Hearn came back and said, I did not attend the hearing. I don't know what was said. But, you're the promoter. It seems like you would have had to have been there. You would have sent somebody in your place. Something. But he says he was not at the hearing and says he doesn't know what was said. What do they call that? Maybe the phrase will come to me. But like I said, my next note was he was never asked about whether or not Rivas's team, manager, promoter, corner, Rivas himself, he was never asked about, did you make an attempt or did you make him aware of the situation? Now, you also might have read the article out there about the glove dispute, the way that the gloves were handled, the way that the gloves didn't get weighed by this BBBOC, so on and so forth. And so, the conversation went on for a little bit about this. There was, like I said, there was never any mentioning of, we informed the Rivas camp. That was never said. It was never the Rivas camp never even came up in the whole situation. So then they just quickly moved on to Joshua-Ruiz too. I steered the conversation that way, and it was over with. And even when they opened the show, and even as they just closed the show like 15 minutes ago, Jerry Cooney was still speaking favorably of Dillian Whyte and saying, I like the guy. He's a good guy. I like the guy. He's a stand-up guy. He fought everybody they asked him to fight, etc., etc. And he's kind of like already moved on from the major issue here. And so I'm just saying, man, here's one of the bigger boxing shows in some respects. I mean, they get everybody on it. They get most of the people that any of us would want to talk to. They get them on there. They get their 15 minutes. They get 20 minutes. And here it is. It seems like Eddie Hearn was not asked the right questions. And it seems like the people asking the questions did not know more than a casual fan. One of my coworkers who asked me about this situation this week. So again, this is serious. It's gravely serious. I mean, it doesn't get any more serious. And this is how we handled it. This is how it was handled. And I continue to mention different things that go on the show week to week. And this really isn't a time to, I'm really not trying to take shots at them. Mainly I'm just calling out that I just don't know how that question was not asked. Eddie, did you were you aware of it? You just said that I think he said that the hearing happened. We went to the hearing with the NADP, or there was a hearing. Then he came back and said that he did not attend it. And then there was never, from the information that you took from that hearing, did you go and notify Oscar Rivas of anything in his camp? And that never came up. And in my opinion, I mean, this is just indicative of the myriad problems that we have in this game. And like I said, man, I've tried to get other brothers to write, not other brothers, I've tried to get other people to write on the site, to help me, come on and keep content on the site so that different stuff can be done. So, coverage can be expanded. It's all these press releases out here, which I don't put up too many of those. It's smaller promoters send you stuff, press releases. Like I said, I'm trying to do my podcast. I'm trying to, etc. It's an international sport. I mean, hell, it's what, 16, 17 weight divisions. I mean, it's a gargantuan situation to try to stay, current in. So, shout out to Karen A. Tate. She put together a piece yesterday and got that out there. Kind of went in. And that was the thing. Like, they were still questioning, was there a failed test? Not was there a failed test. They were still talking about vitamins. Maybe it was vitamins. Like, we already know what the substances were, according to follow-up reports. So like I said, the two individuals that were asking these questions and had the horse, get it from the horse's mouth, had the right person on the phone, and in my opinion, failed to do the minimum and establish why was Oscar Rivas not informed about what took place. I mean, yeah, you can sit and say that we did what, we followed the bylaws, the guidelines, we followed the rules, etc., etc. But morally, you allowed a man to go in there and without knowing what was what real threat was posed to his well-being. and that's unacceptable. And at some point, one of the guys that calls in every week from Atlanta, he said there's a phone call out there, and I haven't seen this yet because I was working on this podcast, editing it. But he said it's a call that's out there between, I think he said it was between Whyte and Hearn, where they were talking through this or something. So anyway, man, I made this 7 minutes longer than what I wanted to, but like I said, if we can't get it right up top with the people that have access, with the big dogs, with the people that have teams, with if we can't get it right over there, and we don't get serious, they threw around some theories of how to fix this, how to improve this, some science behind, same day weigh-ins and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But like I said, the basic thing to have established here with this discussion on this show tonight would have been to ask Eddie Hearn, how did this so you followed the rules, but beyond the rules, what is your opinion on a man going into a fight against someone who is performance enhanced, and you don't know about it, or your fighter doesn't know about it? Then they got, like I said, anyway, that's it, man. Let me get on out of here. Bite down boxing. Don't let them count you out. Peace.